to me, it's a complete suicide mission. The casualty rate of these motorbike attacks are 80 to 90%. Putin seems to have an unlimited amount of conscripts and manpower that he can keep throwing into the meat grinder.
They have to use Mad Max type tactics. They have a mismatch between ends, ways and means.
I expect a lot of these motorbike riders are given no option. We'll shoot you at the back, or you can take your chances going forward.
The idea is to gain ground across no man's land as quickly as you can so that you get within the decision cycle of the Ukrainians, because in terms of the kill chain, you always need to find, fix, track, target, engage, and then assess. If you do that quicker than the find and the fix potential of the Ukrainians, then you've got a chance to gain the forward edge of those areas that you don't want to exploit into. That said, tactical battles are always sequenced in support of operational objectives, and there is nothing that has been taken which is operationally significant for probably the last 9 months.
We have now found that tank and armoured warfare has really been changed significantly by the use of drones. We're now talking about hundreds of thousands of drones. Now, this again is changing and complicating the battlefield, because what drones have done is they've given you sight of virtually every blade of grass on the battlefield. So when you're trying to use deception or surprise, that's incredibly difficult. And when you are trying to attack, that makes life even more difficult. And the fact that the use of drones and massive minefields have really nullified the use of armored vehicles like tanks, then people have to, innovate, even further. I think it is certainly desperate. I can't imagine what it's like, when the guys at the back know that, out of the 100 that are going, 10 might be coming back. It is a pretty desperate thing. And I expect these guys riding the motorbikes are slightly more trained than the others. In effect, these are scouting recce missions conducted at speed. Now, if they can get behind enemy lines deep and cut off what we call lines of communication, then that's a bit like the old days when you'd have a few guys on horses, cavalry, charging through, disrupting in the background, and then shooting out again. I think it's just another evolution of the battlefield.
And the reason we're seeing slow war is because the battlefield has become very transparent. There was this notion that the ubiquity of data on the battlefield meant that war at the speed of light would become the future of warfare. What it's actually meant, though, because of ubiquitous surveillance rather than ubiquitous data, is that war has become glacial, because everyone can see everyone else. And the fifth domain of war in the military these days is space power. And if you look at the number of satellites, particularly that the Americans have in orbit, and the look-down capability for that, and that is what they've been given to the Ukrainians in terms of strategic and operational targeting. It is that makes it glacial, and the inability to cover ground unobserved. So that is why it's become this Langsamer Krieg, slow war rather than blitzkrieg, lightning war. It is that speed that they're trying to do at the tactical level to overcome that 10 to 15 kilometer gap from the sort of Russian lines, often through no man's land, to the Ukrainian trenches. But it's pretty difficult to do. And just by gaining a toehold in trenches can complicate your future, because of course you have to then keep that supplied. And you still have that problem of supply along that 10 or 15 kilometer line